So driver Dave is cruising along and he comes across a speed bump. Now, Dave is apparently new to speed bumps, and rather than slowing down, he speeds up. His car launches through the air and lands with some not-so-satisfying crunching noises. So whose fault was it that Dave's car landed with a crunch? Was it Dave's fault? He was the driver, after all. Or was it the speed bump's fault? Because if driver Dave had been driving along and the speed bump hadn't been there, this whole incident could have been avoided. Or was it the car's fault? If driver Dave had actually been Walker Dave, careening towards the speed bump sans car at 3 miles per hour, his car probably would never have been damaged. Regardless of whose fault it was, the outcome of this event, a crunched car, couldn't have happened without all the actors in the scene. Driver Dave, the car, the speed bump, and even the road sign. Yeah, don't try to look innocent, Mr. Road Sign. We know you participated in these shenanigans. Where are we going with all this? We're going to the magical land of activity theory. Activity theory says that every activity we do, from damaging our car to making breakfast to tweeting a picture of our breakfast, anything we do, relies on a network of actors to make it possible. And by actors, we don't mean people standing on a stage in tights and speaking Shakespearean language. In an activity system, the actors are the people, ideas, social concepts, rules, and tools that make the activity possible. Here's a chart that activity theory people use to explain it. You've got your objective, which is the activity or action that's going to happen as a result of all the actors working together. If we go back to driver Dave's example, the activity was the crunching car. It's probably an undesirable activity, but it's an activity nonetheless. Then you've got your subject, the person performing the activity. Driver Dave is our subject. Up here you've got tools. These are the physical things that participate in the activity. In driver Dave's case, we've got the car, the speed bump, the road sign, maybe even the road itself. Down here we've got community. Even though it seems like driver Dave was the only guy on the scene, other people actually had influence on this activity. Other people decided to build the speed bump, and other people put up a sign to tell Dave about the speed bump, and other people probably built the car that driver Dave is driving because driver Dave doesn't really seem like he'd be able to build a car himself. Here we've got division of labor. Sometimes we divide up the labor with other people, and sometimes we let tools help us out with the tasks. Like driver Dave let his car do the rolling part, which is kind of essential to driving. Over here we have rules. Rules are often invisible actors, but they can still have a major impact on our activities. In driver Dave's case, maybe the city council had laws about how fast people could drive on that road, and to enforce those rules, they stuck a speed bump on the road. And the fact that there's a city council at all tells us a lot about the cultural rules in driver Dave's community. Driver Dave lives in a place and time where people are like, yeah, it's normal to have a city council that makes decisions about roads and stuff. But in some places, that's not normal. So the subject, tools, community, division of labor, and rules all work together as a network to make our object or activity possible. If you remove any of the actors from this system, it either ceases to operate or has to function really differently. Now, the downside of our happy little triangle diagram is that it makes the activities seem straightforward and uncomplicated. But that might not be accurate. Because if we're calling the tools and rules actors, that means that non-human things impact the way that humans behave. In other words, your stuff kind of controls you. Here's an example of what I mean. Back in the day, whenever it was hot out, people would often go outside and sit on the front porch to cool off. And so some nights you might have the whole neighborhood sitting out on their front porches, shooting the breeze, maybe shooting some squirrels, but the point is they saw a lot of each other. Then along came a tool that changed all that. Air conditioning. Suddenly, instead of sitting out on the front porch hollering at the neighbors across the way, people retreated inside their cool houses. This isn't to say that air conditioning is a good or a bad thing, but it isn't neutral. So what does all this talk of activity theory and tools have to do with writing? Well, for one thing, writing is an activity. The more we become aware of the actors involved in the writing process, the more we can think critically about the impact each of those actors has on what we produce. Secondly, texts are often really influential actors that participate in our activities. Even something as simple as a speed bump sign might influence how a person behaves. Well, that's the word, bird. Until next time, put a little wonder in your wander.